Hello, I'm Ellen Vandermeide, Head of Enrichment Programs for the Kirk Newman Art School, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you today Ellie Stanislav. Ellie Stanislav is one of our current ceramics residents and is a ceramic artist with a focus on sculptural tiles. She received a BA from the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities and a BFA in Studio Art from Michigan State University. Her work is a form of reflection and a way to nurture reconnection, a space for her to first explore and then communicate ideas about place and displacement, memories and stories, change and acceptance. I'd now like to invite Ellie up to the podium.
Good to go. So, hello, my name is Ellie Stanislav. I'm one of the ceramic residents at the Kirk Newman Art School this year. My primary focus is in sculptural wall tiles. So I grew up about 2 hours north of here in Big Rapids, Michigan, and I completed a BA in the Arts and Humanities in 2023 and Studio Art Ceramics in 2024, both of which were from Michigan State University. So despite my Midwest upbringing, my roots are firmly planted in New Orleans, Louisiana. I was born there, and it was where my family experienced Hurricane Katrina in 2005. This personal history has remained to be a major influence in my work, reconnecting me with my past and giving form to the stories I carry. My parents are my heroes, and I wouldn't be where I am today without them. My father got his start in plant biology, and my mother in textiles as a pattern maker, translating a 2D image to the three-dimensional body. I definitely received her eye for viewing the world in the 3D and his love for interesting ceramics, having collected rookwood and Van Briggle pottery as a young adult. They encouraged my interest in the arts growing up, placing me in multiple kids' clay classes, and didn't blink when I began to pursue ceramics at the college level. My work with tiles began in the fall of 2022 when I took a mold making and serial production ceramics class. Our first assignment in the class was to create a tile inspired by nature and cast a plaster mold for it. I created this tile, which featured a stylized magnolia as the central flower with a black-eyed Susan split at the corners. Both flowers modeled represent New Orleans and the resilience of my family. Despite the destruction New Orleans experienced from Hurricane Katrina, we began anew. This tile was for the city, the flowers, and my parents and their perseverance. I struggled for a long time with glazing this tile and could never quite communicate the 2D design to 3D. The encouragement of my professor, I cast the tiles on our low-fire terracotta. But it came out this bright orange color that I didn't love, so I fired it again higher to cone 2, and still not satisfied, I took it up to cone 6, where it came out this beautiful, rich chocolate color. But as I approached my final semester, I decided to throw all my efforts into making tile works for my BFA senior exhibition. As an accompaniment and contrast to the sculptural tiles, I worked with a faculty member to make the more 2D design of the tile come to life. Because my tiles were first designed in Adobe Illustrator, it was easy enough to create the files for MSU's CNC router and cut the designs from plexiglass. I was then able to create plaster molds from the plexi tiles and cast clay tiles from the mold. It shows the plexi, the plaster. I have negative, positive, negative, positive. There was a lot of back and forth. Oops. Okay. Magnolia Rooted has been shown in East Lansing, in Manifest Gallery in Cincinnati, and the MSU Alumni and Faculty Show in Detroit for NCECA. A collection of these tiles has also recently found a home in Minneapolis. Because my original design had come to life, I felt more confident taking these tiles in a more sculptural direction and leaned into the simple yet rich finish of the cone 6 terracotta tiles. I was again encouraged to frame my tiles. And taking inspiration from French Quarter architecture and wrought iron garden fences, I created 2 more tiles with twisting frame design. This piece, Magnolia Transplanted, has become my most pivotal in my career so far. And in the spring of 2024, the small version won a student art contest at MSU's Beale Botanical Garden. It is now a permanent part of their permanent collection. And later that same year, Magnolia Transplanted was accepted to the Michigan Ceramics Art Association Biennial Exhibition and was awarded the Emerging Artist category by juror George Rodriguez. In August of 2025, I was extremely honored when Magnolia Transplanted was accepted into the National Exhibition for the National Council on Education for the Ceramic Arts. Previously mentioned, this is in Sika, and the conference was held in Detroit this year, with reports estimating over 5,000 people having attended, which is very exciting. So I learned about the Kirk Newman Artist Residency in December of 2024. However, I would still have about 6 months before applications opened and closed. And in these 6 months, I was accepted to a relatively new residency program at Stifel Fine Arts Center in Wheeling, West Virginia, where I spent 3 months in the spring of 2025 making work, meeting the most generous and wonderful people, and having life-changing experiences. I was in the Stifel studio packing up my plaster molds when I received the email that I had been accepted to come here. I was very relieved to know that I was not going to pack up my molds long-term, and packing became easier and a little messier. I was eager to be back in a studio, and one that I didn't have to hit the ground running quite like I did in West Virginia. I had multiple projects I was interested in pursuing over the many months, while also acknowledging that the new ideas and work would come from all the opportunity and experiences available to me while at this studio. Much of the work I've done here at the KA has been more skill and technique exploration. In the fall, I explored using 3D printed tiles to cast molds from as a more accessible alternative to the plexi tiles I use in Magnolia Rooted. I was excited to finally bring to life a design I'd made 2 years prior and explored a new design based on the bug tiles I made while in West Virginia. New forms and asymmetrical arrangements was also something I was able to play around with during my time here. Variations of both of these pieces will appear in the show in May. Having only sampled atmospheric firings in the past, I was excited to see what the Anagama and salt soda kilns here could produce. Even though I use an electric kiln, my favorite part of the tiles in Magnolia Transplanted is the variation in color of the terracottas as a result of being in separate firings. Atmospheric firings can be unpredictable and guarantee variation. But when I get to the glazing stage of a tile piece, I begin to get an itch to move on to a new design. Between our second and third critiques, we were encouraged to start narrowing down and finishing up what we planned to have for the residency show in May. We were also cautioned that due to the timing of the firings for the Anagama kiln, we could not plan to have work from the wood kiln in the show. However, selfishly, I could not let the opportunity pass by, and in exactly the 5 weeks between the last 2 critiques, I had created and made molds for 15 different tile designs and 3 framing tiles. This piece, titled The Woods, was created for the wood kiln. The Woods is twofold. In the technical sense, I wanted to create something modular, which I hadn't yet done before. These tiles can trade places and rearrange themselves just as easily as my symmetrical designs, yet the story stays the same. Conceptually, The Woods focuses on my childhood experience growing up in the 10 acres of woods behind my parents' house. Each tile depicts something you might find in the woods and walk up upon. As a child, I spent summers romping through the woods, building forts, playing tag, imagining castles and knights. In recent years, my fondest memories of my parents' woods are actually from COVID. I felt as though I had returned to them with fresh eyes, and when the rest of the world was closed off, the woods became a sanctuary for us to stretch our legs and get out of the house. I'm eager to see how the slow flame and swirling ash of the wood kiln will change the surfaces of these tiles. As this residency comes to a close, I began to look ahead at what's next. I acknowledge that these years are ones of transition, and I find myself often being uprooted to chase new opportunities. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here, and a chance to explore, experiment, and make, and make, and make. And indeed, I would like to extend my thanks first to the audience for coming here today, but also I'd like to thank my parents for their absolute and limitless support, and to Liv, my best friend who always cheers me on, Paul Catula and Blake Williams, my MSU professors, and absolutely the people I look up to the most. I'd like to thank the studio goers of the ceramic department for welcoming me into their space. Thank you, Annaluz, for being here with me and helping me fill kilns, make slips, and listen to me rant, and for free coffee. Thank you to Wyatt, Mitzi, and Eric, all whose help, feedback, and most importantly, friendship made me excited to come to the studio every day. And finally, thank you, Julie. Thank you for accepting me, for trusting me in your studio, and giving me all these opportunities. Thank you for putting up with my nagging to run not quite full kilns, and for only gently calling me out when I text you tipsy self-critiques. I suppose I should ask for questions. Yes.
What's next for you?
What's next? I've applied to some residencies. This summer, I'm teaching a mold making class here, which I'm very excited for. I also have a workshop at Oxbow School of Art. A little bit, just see where the wind takes me sometimes, which is not a good answer, but
I really enjoyed seeing some of your old work that I hadn't seen before, and I was really drawn to this one that you're putting back under with the yes, the very the pattern. How do you feel about the repetition of pattern to this extent? I think it's really awesome. Seems like a lot of work. Is it too rewarding to
yeah.
do all that?
These tiles are quite small, so the repetition got a little exhausting. I felt like I was producing and producing and producing, and then it only came out to be like 50 inches wide. I really love this piece, and I haven't been able to come back to this kind of like subject matter, or really the style, I guess. It took a lot of glaze testing to get right the colors I wanted. So it was a lot of work. But yeah, I would love to. I was kind of trying to do that with the bug tiles you saw later on. Just ran into some hiccups in the road. But yeah, no, I would love to do this. I'd always intended to frame it, but I kind of like it unframed. I feel like it just stands on its own really well.
Yes.
How do you see the context and the appropriate placement of your work? Do you see it in an architectural sense? Do you see it in an interior space? And sort of the comparison of the large piece like this compared to the smaller, like mandala size pieces?
Sure. So these bigger pieces, I would love to see someday at a large architectural stage, filling a wall, being installed somewhere. Not quite there yet, but so the smaller mandala-sized pieces definitely are more approachable, I think. As far as like getting my work out there, it's easier to put in shows and sell, and but a lot. I mean, I've explained to people before, I see these works as like large paintings you put on a wall. Decoration, unfortunately, but does that answer your question? Good. Okay.